Yogeshwar Bava. Let's begin with the headlines you need to know. Nilam Shinde, the young woman from Maharashtra's Satara district, is currently battling for her life in a hospital in California in the United States after she suffered critical injuries in a road accident. Her family is seeking the Indian and US government's help to get an American visa immediately. Their visa interview will take place shortly. European Union Commission President Ursula von der Leyen is in New Delhi on a two-day official visit aimed at bolstering cooperation between India and the EU across key sectors including AI, trade, defense and security. Donald Trump has vowed to begin digging for minerals in Ukraine after a historic minerals deal is signed between Washington and Kyiv today as Zelensky visits the White House. Meanwhile, Trump said he can't believe he called Zelensky a dictator. Well, Donald Trump said that a minerals deal with Ukraine is the security guarantee Kyiv needs against Russia, brushing aside a plea from British Prime Minister Keir Starmer for a commitment of US military support. A rare 7-planet alignment with Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune, all visible in the night sky at the same time, will take place today. Well, a big focus, NDTV's campaign for Nilam Shinde, the young woman from Maharashtra's Satara district, who is currently battling for her life in a hospital in California in the United States after she suffered critical injuries in a road accident. Ms. Shinde is currently in a coma and her family is seeking the center's help and the US's help to get an American visa immediately, as doctors actually need permission from her blood relatives to operate on her. Now, her father and another relative will be heading for an interview for their visa shortly, but according to her father, Ms. Shinde had gone to America for higher education and was a fourth-year student at California State University. Currently, the hospital needs permission to operate on her, her family has said, adding that Ms. Shinde was on the verge of death and the hospital administration could not take any risk unless there was a blood relative. I must also inform you that Ms. Shinde lost her mother a year ago due to a brain tumor. But speaking to NDTV, her uncle, Sanjay Kadam, has informed us that there had been an improvement in Ms. Shinde's condition as of Thursday. Her family had applied for a visa 48 hours after she was mowed down from behind by a four-wheeler on the 14th of February, but the application has been pending since. Ms. Shinde's uncle, Kadam Shinde, told NDTV that the earliest available date was showing up as next year, but now Ms. Shinde's father has confirmed an appointment at the US consulate in Mumbai for today. Meanwhile, the Sacramento Police Department spoke to NDTV and said the accused in the hit-and-run case has been arrested on the 19th of February, and the hit-and-run took place at around 7 p.m. on the 14th of February. The accused, police say, fled the scene after the hit-and-run incident. My colleague Anuj Raithe has been tracking all the latest developments for us. He joins us live at the moment. Anuj, we are aware that the driver behind the wheel of the car that hit Ms. Shinde has been taken into police custody, but Ms. Shinde's father and the uncle, they're expected to be heading to the US consulate in Mumbai shortly for their visa interview?
Yes, in a very short while from now onwards, in fact, in an hour and a half, at 9 a.m. today morning, their interview is scheduled at the US consulate here in Bandra region of Mumbai. They left Satara yesterday. As soon as they got the news, they planned their travels accordingly. And it is the brother, that is cousin brother and father, who are the two passport-holding members of the family who are on their, who will be planning to go to the United States of America. They've been waiting for this, this piece of good news. Probably the only piece of good news that they received in the last 10 to 12 days. Very patiently, we saw that after this entire incident took place, the ordeal continued not just from one front while they were dealing with authorities there in the hospital, and getting to know details about their daughter's health update on a daily basis. On the other hand, they were also struggling to make sure, or struggling to get their visa too, to plan their US travel. Now, there are friends and there are acquaintances in the United States of America. There's also a very strong Marathi and Indian diaspora there. However, it cannot come to use considering that the policy of the hospital doesn't allow anyone except for the blood relatives to be present there in the premises when Nilam Shinde is being treated upon. While the family did give the oral assents and the oral permissions to whatever emergency treatment was required on the 16th of February, but considering that she's in coma, she's fractured both her legs and one of her hands, and has severely injured her chest and her brain, the treatment, the procedure, is going to be long drawn, which would require the presence of the family there by next to the individual very, very closely. And that is the reason why the travel was so important. At the same time, one positive thing that we got to know yesterday was the fact that Nilam Shinde's cousin confirmed it to us that her health has been improving since last couple of days. And that's a very positive news, especially considering that her father and her cousin will be there. So one can expect the speedy recovery, to happen in the coming days, especially keeping in mind that the family will be planning to travel and stay there for as long as possible. But all eyes on the US consulate meeting that will be taking place today in a short while from now onwards, where hopefully the family will be getting two visas by the end of the day.
Anuj, as always, thanks so much for joining us with the lowdown. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Also joining us on the broadcast at the moment, live from Chicago, Sudhanshu Kaushik, the Executive Director of the North American Association of Indian Students. Sudhanshu, thank you so much for making time for us. An agonizing wait as we speak for the family members who are expecting a US visa at the moment. But what steps do you think need to be taken, Sudhanshu, to ensure the safety of international students, especially those from India, who are living and studying in North America? Do you see any gaps in how campuses or communities address such incidents?
Thank you so much, Parmeshwar, for asking that question. And I don't think this is limited to just the United States. I think all around the world where Indians go to study, whether it's in the UK, Australia, Europe, especially the United States, there are substantial gaps. As NAIS, we try to explore and fill those gaps as possible, but we do know that the mechanisms in place right now for study abroad, for the safety of students on study abroad and their well-being are not being met. And I'm not trying to blame anyone, right? There are just certain limitations when it comes to visas, when it comes to the processing of these issues. But it seems like, Parmeshwar, I am on NDTV every single month talking about something related to the death or a hate crime against an Indian student here in the United States. And I'm not saying that people are being targeted, and I'm not trying to fearmonger, but these gaps exist. And one of the biggest ones is who facilitates. I'm thankful that NDTV has taken this up. You guys are talking about it. You're putting pressure on both governments, India and the United States. You're putting the pressure on stakeholders where it's needed. But can you do this every single time? Parmeshwar, literally we send 1.2 million Indian students every single year abroad in so many countries, out of which 300,000 or 3 lakh of sorts are here in the United States. This number in the next 2 to 3 years is expected to get to 500,000 or 5 lakh students. Now, out of those 5 lakh students, they are spread across everywhere. Are we expected to take care of every single student? That can NDTV make a campaign for every single student? The answer is no. And the gaps that we need to meet is, how do the governments plus the universities talk to each other? Absolutely. Ensure that, listen, this demographic is growing. There are going to be, as expected, instances where unfortunately there will be shortcomings, whether through personnel, whether through issues, and we need to fix that. I can't understand, Parmeshwar, that this happened on February 14th. It's been 14 days since the father, the uncle, the nephew have been waiting. And
as we speak, they're still struggling to get a visa.
Absolutely. So it's not certain. I mean, I'm thankful everything is moving because of the pressure you put in, but 14 days is just not right. And so I'm thankful that at one point, Nilam is getting the care that she needs and the hospitals. As all your viewers need to know that there's no way that the hospital can deny her under the healthcare laws that exist in California and around the United States. But 14 days of not being able to go, and then it's expected that NDTV or the great Indian diaspora community or even the consulates, right, at these instances are supposed to keep up, which they're doing a great job. I'm not at all interfering in that. But again, why hasn't a cell been created within either the Ministry of External Affairs, right, that can also be able to help and facilitate these issues for students, because it's becoming such a big demographic. At the same time, the US embassies, I mean, they love to tout, there's an entire economy based on this about sending students abroad. So in that, letter or like the facilitation that you do or the money that you spend, you can't create, 2 additional posts for emergency visas for students and their families. So when an instance like this happens, when an Indian student has paid so much money in tuition and facilitated your economy, that you can't even guarantee the right of safety, and if not even the safety, events will happen, the passage of their family members to be in this critical time period. I mean, we tout.
Very pertinent points there, Sudhanshu. And given the nature of this hit-and-run incident, where the driver fled the scene, he was caught on the 19th of February. It is crucial for local law enforcement agencies, officials on ground zero, to strengthen their efforts to protecting students and ensuring accountability. I 100% agree with you. Thanks so much for joining us on NDTV. We will, of course, revert to you for regular updates. Well, with that, let's switch tracks now. European Union President Ursula von der Leyen is likely to discuss preventing restricted technologies from places such as India reaching Russia in violation of sanctions during her touchdown. The talks in New Delhi, they have covered reducing high tariffs on cars. Sources say there's going to be talks on advancing the free trade agreement. This visit, though, marks the first ever trip of a high-level EU College of Commissioners, comprising 22 of the 27 EU commissioners to India. Notably, this is also the first collective overseas visit by the team since they assumed office back in December 2024. But with regard to defense and security, both sides are looking forward to boosting cooperation with specific focus on the Indo-Pacific region, is what our sources have briefed us. By the way, this visit is expected to further deepen India-EU collaboration in areas such as space, investment, digital technologies, semiconductors as well. We're also hearing that there are going to be talks and movement in areas of clean energy, green hydrogen, sustainable urbanization, and water management as the European Union President touches down. My colleague Mohammad Ghazali has been tracking this visit very closely. He joins us currently. Ghazali, take us through the highlights of day one and the plan of action for today too.
The EU Commission President will be meeting the Prime Minister today, and what we have heard so far is that the free trade agreement is one of the components of this entire visit, and we have seen that how, due to Donald Trump's tariff threat, which has taken everyone by surprise, country after country is issuing those threats, and the division or the difference of opinion on the issue of Ukraine-Russia war has somewhere left the European Union very concerned and very isolated. And that is why there could not have been a better time for the European Union to look for a reliable and diversifying its partnership. It is looking up to India. And if you see yesterday's tweet by the European Union Commission President yesterday, she has been hinting that India is a very reliable partner, one, due to its geostrategic location, considering the fact that how China has been expanding its economic base across Europe as well. And India happens to be a very reliable partner since EU is also one of the largest trading partner of India. So one, that FTA could be one of the component of this discussion. And EU is looking for diversifying its market in India as well. India is an open market, and EU is interested in many products here. Yeah. So besides FTA, trade ties, trade and technology, Council meeting is also expected, where India and EU are expected to talk about clean energy and other domain where India and EU are expected to diversify their partnership and business and trade. But besides trade and trade ties and other issues, it is certainly for EU to have India on its side at a time when the geopolitical sand is shifting across the globe.
As always, Ghazali, thank you so much for joining us with the latest update. By the way, Donald Trump appeared to make a U-turn after previously describing Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky as a dictator. The US President was quizzed about his relations with Zelensky and Vladimir Putin during an Oval Office meeting with UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. But the Ukrainian President will still meet US President Donald Trump in Washington today, Friday, to sign an agreement on sharing his country's mineral resources. Zelensky has described the bilateral deal as preliminary and also said that he wants further agreements, which include US security guarantees, to deter renewed Russian aggression. But Trump said the United States would not provide guarantees beyond very much. saying the responsibility should instead fall to Europe. By the way, Trump also seemingly ruled out the prospect of Ukraine becoming a NATO member, which is one of Zelensky's long-held ambitions. Here's what Trump had to say on Zelensky's visit.
We're going to have a very good meeting tomorrow morning. We're going to get along really well, okay? We have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect for him. We've given them a lot of equipment and a lot of money, but they have fought very bravely, no matter how you figure it. They have really fought. Somebody has to use that equipment, and they have been very brave in that sense.
Mr. President, do you still think that Mr. Zelensky is a dictator?
Did I say that? I can't believe I said that. Next question.
Mr. Keir Starmer flattered President Donald Trump with a basket of gifts on his first visit to the White House on Thursday, including commitments to spend more money on defense, lavish praise, and a letter from King Charles III inviting Trump to a state dinner. Trump was exceedingly pleased, it seemed, but that did not mean Starmer got anything in return. Trump appeared unmoved by Starmer's desperate appeal for a stronger US commitment to protecting Ukraine if and when its war with Russia ends. And Keir Starmer, conscious that Trump has rejected pleas to provide security guarantees for Ukraine, has been asking for something less: a US commitment to backstop European efforts to help defend Ukraine from any future invasion by Russia. We have reactions lined up for you from the US President and the British Prime Minister. Here's what they said.
Alongside British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, US President Donald Trump appeared to dial down his recent public rhetoric over the war in Ukraine. Since taking office in January, he's ended the diplomatic isolation of Russia, falsely accused Ukraine of starting the war, and called Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky a dictator. At Thursday's news conference, however, he predicted that he and Zelensky would have a good in-person meeting on Friday, saying that he has a lot of respect for the Ukrainian leader, although he dodged a question about whether he would apologise to him for calling him a dictator. He said that he and Prime Minister Starmer discussed steps towards what he described as a, quote, very achievable ceasefire in the Ukraine war, which could happen quickly, he said. The British leader made his position clear, saying, quote, history must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader, adding that the UK is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air to support a deal. The Prime Minister also delivered a letter from King Charles III inviting Mr. Trump for a state visit, making it the first time that an American president has been offered the honour twice. But it's unclear whether Mr. Starmer's efforts to woo Mr. Trump actually worked, given that the US president made no mention of US forces supporting a peacekeeping mission in Ukraine. And beyond the public diplomacy, Mr. Starmer aimed to urge Mr. Trump to ensure security guarantees to Ukraine that would prevent Russia from ever invading again. But White House officials said before the meeting that the discussions about the deal giving the US access to Ukraine's rare earth minerals does not include such guarantees. Kate Fisher, NDTV, Washington.
I think we're going to have a very successful peace, and I think it's going to be a long-lasting peace, and I think it's going to happen hopefully quickly. If it doesn't happen quickly, it may not happen at all. And we want it for two reasons. Number one, I want to see on a humane basis, I want to see soldiers stop getting shot, because largely it's soldiers now. Towns have been obliterated, but it's largely that. And I don't want to pay billions and billions and billions of dollars, nor does the Prime Minister or anybody else, on a senseless war that should have never happened.
There's a famous slogan in the United Kingdom from after the Second World War. That is that we have to win the peace. And that's what we must do now. Because it can't be peace that rewards the aggressor or that gives encouragement to regimes like Iran. We agree history must be on the side of the peacemaker, not the invader. So the stakes, they couldn't be higher. And we're determined to work together to deliver a good deal.
Well, Trump has said that his proposed 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian goods, meanwhile, will go into effect on the 4th of March and threatened an extra 10% duty on Chinese imports because he claims Deadly drugs are still pouring into the US from those countries. Trump has said in a post on his Truth Social site that he would impose the additional 10% tariff on Chinese goods on 4th of March. This would come on top of the 10% tariff that he levied on the 4th of February on imports from China over the fentanyl opioid crisis. News and updates continue in a moment right after this very short break. Do stay tuned.
Very, very warm welcome to you all for this NDTV Profit Conclave, which is themed on Viksit Bharat.
American president talks about making America great again, and when Prime Minister Modi talks about Viksit Bharat, in a way is talking about making India great again.
India needs to diversify its sources of capital.
Deployment of the grassroots level will be done by manufacturing.
You can't truly become a developed nation unless we take every segment of the society in our economic development journey. This is also another element of blueprint for Viksit Bharat.
The NDTV Profit Conclave 2025, the blueprint for Viksit Bharat, only on the NDTV network. In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Right in the very beginning, that the institute had a very big impression, and it forever left an indelible mark on what you are. What about teaching sometimes?
If you tell me that I can teach you acting in 2 weeks, in 3 months, it doesn't happen. It's a lifetime of learning.
People who have been part of your life, starting with your father, his influence on you. He was a leftist, a tall left leader, and then your marriage to Javed Akhtar. How have men influenced your life?
In my house, I grew up with taking gender equality as a given. 70 साल पहले उन्होंने लिखी थी औरत उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे, at a time when it was believed that women's place is in the home and the heart, looking after the children. And he said, no, you march along with me.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you all the action, all that you need to know, all that you want to know.
The energy of Maximum City is infectious. I bring in that energy in our news coverage from financial capital, Mumbai.
Covering from the southernmost part of India over the last 23 years, I bring in-depth and 360-degree coverage from the Dravidian heartland.
The land of Mishti is also known for its bitter politics. I have seen much water flow under the Howrah Bridge, covering Bengal in all its vivid colors.
Welcome back. Well, Israel's military has released its first official report on the failures that led to Hamas's deadly October 7th attack in 2023, which triggered the ongoing Gaza war. The report admits Israel's defense forces failed to protect civilians, underestimated Hamas intentions, and ignored warning signs for years. And the military chief at the time, Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, had taken full responsibility and resigned calling for a formal investigation after the war. But Israel does not intend to withdraw from a strategic corridor in Gaza in the coming days. This is what an Israeli official has said on record, in a move that could endanger the country's ceasefire agreement with Hamas. Under the terms of this deal, Israel is due to start pulling its soldiers out of the Philadelphia corridor, which is an 8.6-mile wide strip of land by Gaza's border with Egypt, on Saturday. In other news, Hollywood legend Gene Hackman and his wife Betsy Arakawa have actually been found dead at their home in New Mexico. Police say the couple appeared to have been deceased for some time before they were discovered. While there were no signs of forced entry or struggle, authorities have called the death suspicious enough to investigate thoroughly. I must also inform you that prescription pills and a heater were found near the bodies, along with their dead dog in a bathroom closet. But tests have been ordered to determine the cause of death, and Hackman, who's a two-time Oscar winner, was remembered as one of Hollywood's greatest legends with iconic roles in The French Connection and Unforgiven. Meanwhile, the 97th Academy Awards, cinema's glitziest night, are set to take place on Monday in LA, Hollywood. It's not a particularly robust year for India, though, because Lapata Ladies, our official submission for Best International Feature, did not make the cut. Neither did several independent entries. Instead, some hope rests with Anuja, a 22-minute short film backed by Guneet Monga and Priyanka Chopra Jonas. The film has been nominated in the Best Live Action Short Film category. And there is also I Am Ready, which is a documentary short, produced and directed by Smriti Mundra, an American director of Indian origin. Meanwhile, a rare 7-planet alignment with Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus and Neptune all visible in the night sky at the same time will take place today. So 7 planets will be visible in the night sky for the last time until the year 2014. With that, we're slipping into a very short break. Thank you so much for investing your time and watching this edition of The World 24/7.
Very, very warm welcome to you all for this NDTV Prophet Conclave, which is themed on Viksit Bharat.
American president talks about making America great again, and when Prime Minister Modi talks about Viksit Bharat, in a way is talking about making India great again.
India needs to diversify its sources of capital.
Deployment of the grassroots level will be done by manufacturing.
You can't truly become a developed nation unless we take every segment of the society in our economic development journey. This is also another element of blueprint for Viksit Bharat.
The NDTV Prophet Conclave 2025, the blueprint for Viksit Bharat, only on the NDTV network. In today's interconnected world, India's voice is more crucial than ever. When India speaks, the world listens. At NDTV World, we are that voice, bringing you intelligent and insightful news from India and beyond. From geopolitics and diplomacy to economic shifts, migrations, tech disruptions, and the stories of our diaspora. We cover the news that shapes our global future. NDTV World, your new home for global news, is here.
Right in the very beginning, that the institute had a very big impression and it forever left an indelible mark on what you are. What about teaching sometimes?
If you tell me that I can teach you acting in 2 weeks, in 3 months, it doesn't happen. It's a lifetime of learning.
people who have been part of your life, starting with your father, his influence on you. He was a leftist, a tall left leader, and then your marriage to Javed Akhtar. How have men influenced your life?
In my house, I grew up with taking gender equality as a given. 70 साल पहले उन्होंने लिखी थी औरत उठ मेरी जान मेरे साथ ही चलना है तुझे, at a time when it was believed that women's place is in the home and the heart, looking after the children. And he said, no, you march along with me.
I've been reporting on all issues, big and small, from Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, rest of South India, bringing you.
Hello and good morning. You're watching NDTV's Breakfast Show. I'm Radhika Ramaswamy coming to you from Mumbai. In fact, I am near the US consulate in Mumbai, where shortly parents of Nilam Shinde will be arriving for their emergency visa appointment. After weeks of struggle, they've secured this appointment, and finally they may be able to see their daughter who's battling for her life in the US. We will get you all the details of this developing story, but first, the headlines. A ray of hope for Nilam Shinde's family. Shortly, Nilam's family to reach the US consulate in Mumbai for their visa interview. The Indian student is in coma at a hospital, and the family had been struggling to get a visa interview. NDTV campaigned for family's cause. Sacramento Police Department replies to NDTV in the Nilam case. Nilam was injured in a hit-and-run case. Cops tell NDTV the accused was arrested on 19th of February. After a 3-day hunt, Pune police arrest accused in the Pune rape case. Accused booked for sexually assaulting a 26-year-old woman on a stationary government bus.